Welcome to the second episode of the Barstoolers Premier League podcast. In the second episode of the show, we'll be reviewing all the action from the first round of games, including Liverpool's 7-goal thriller with Leeds, Frank Lampard's new look Chelsea, and Tottenham's dreadful performance at home to Everton. We'll also be discussing any transfer news and looking ahead to the second round of Premier League fixtures, including Manchester City's first game of the season away to Wolves, Manchester United's first game of the season at home to Crystal Palace, and the headline match of the weekend as Chelsea take on Liverpool. We hope you enjoy the show. Right lads, episode 2. It's good to have the Premier League back, isn't it?
Remarkable.
Yeah.
So,
been waiting for the Barclays for a while now.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just good to have something to watch on a Saturday or Sunday. I've watched too much Netflix at this stage. I think I've completed it. So actually good to have some genuine talking points.
I'm sure our new host Ronan needs an introduction there. The main man on the pod.
Yes,
was missing
absolutely.
last week.
He was missing in action, but this week we've brought him in. He's an impact sub. He's like a new sign. Well, he is a new sign. He hasn't been on the pod yet.
I'm like Giroud off the bench for Arsenal, just ready to go in and get the goals.
Yeah, so there's no Michael this week. He will return next week. But Ronan, do you want to introduce yourself? Say who you support, etc.?
Yeah, I'm Ronan. I support Liverpool, so at least we still got 2 Liverpool fans on the podcast. It's good to see Fulham still outnumbered.
It's good we're promoting that Premier League diversity.
There is going to be a week where I'm not on here, and it may as well just be a Liverpool podcast rather than a Premier League one. But until then, we have a little bit of, a couple of different perspectives. So it was a good first weekend of matches, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we haven't had much of a gap between this coronavirus 2 weeks, so good turnaround, and good to see the levels are still very competitive, and I really enjoyed it,
Yeah, I think no pre-season has affected a few clubs. Like, I know some of the clubs looked a little bit, their fitness wasn't quite up to scratch as what they normally would be at the start of the season, but it's been good to have it back.
That was one thing I kind of expected. Do you remember after the restart, a load of matches were 0-0 at half-time? I thought it would kind of be the same, and I don't think it really was. There was a fair few goals in a lot of games, so a little bit better, but it is pre-season for most teams. For example, United are playing this week. We've only played one friendly against Villa. So Palace, that's going to be our second match. We have had no pre-season, and most teams have had about 2 matches probably at most before the first match. So, yeah. So the match of the week, it was basically the match of the week in last week's podcast. We expected it to be brilliant, but it probably exceeded any expectations, was Liverpool and Leeds. Brilliant match. James, Ronan, as Liverpool fans, I suppose you can take it away to begin with. Say any thoughts you had in the game.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. I have to say, Salah's going to be a standout for anyone observing the game. Like, got the hat-trick in. There's a few non-starters in the team for us. For example, Trent got outclassed by the like of Harrison, and Van Dijk got a bit exposed at times, but that's just the fitness concerns and things starting the season. It does feel a bit pre-season. You're dead right, but to be happy with a win, like, you have to be happy to win against Leeds. Like, a lot of fans were taking this to heart. Conceded 3 goals, Premier League champions. It happens. It's Leeds. Bielsa football. This man's a mastermind. You just kind of have to expect Leeds to get some good results during the season. So I wouldn't take too much into conceding 3 goals opening day.
Yeah, I kind of be the same. I think Liverpool's attacking football is still definitely there. Salah scoring 3. I know we got 2 penalties, but both penalties, I know there was some debate about the first one. I thought his hand was a bit high up. I can see why it was given. I can see why someone would be annoyed that it wasn't given. But the second one was a stonewall penalty, I thought. But again, the attacking football was great. We got caught a few times in the counter. But defensively, I wouldn't be too worried as a Liverpool fan. I know what Bonlahor during the week was given out saying that Van Dijk was being too arrogant at the back. I know he made a mistake for the Bamford goal, but I don't think he'd say he was too arrogant. Maybe he was a little bit overconfident, but first game of the season.
Absolutely.
Sorry, James.
Sorry, there was a similar incident though with the first penalty though. I didn't think it was quite harsh because Newcastle had a similar incident, didn't it? They appealed and they didn't get it. So it's just one of those, it's a toss-up. Yeah,
in terms of the penalties, the second one was an absolute stonewall, absolutely. Zero debate.
Striker in the box situation,
So stupid. Actually, I have a note. I was taking notes during the game, so I was prepared for this podcast. This is the professionalism of this podcast. But I just have a note saying Rodrigo, idiot. Absolute idiot. What was he trying to do? In the 87th minute, 88th minute, what is he trying to do? And then the first penalty, It is a penalty. Yeah, his hand was way out. Definitely a penalty to me.
Yeah, it was.
But in terms of Liverpool looking shaky at the back, I don't know if I completely agree. I think it's a little bit exaggerated. It's like, oh, Liverpool conceded 3 goals. I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure Leeds had 3 shots on target. And obviously, Van Dijk did make an error, but it was a little bit of a strange ball played over by, I think it was Stuart Dallas. There was a similar ball in the Dundalk game that Shells played. They played a long ball, and just the way it dropped between the keeper and the defender, they didn't really know where to go, and it was exactly the same with that Patrick Bamford goal. So I have a little bit of sympathy for Van Dijk, but it is a mistake. And then
I think it was just
goal, yes,
I think he was just a bit blindsided. I think it just didn't see Bamford in his peripheral. I thought he just thought Robertson was to his left. He just give it out to him.
It was just an awkward ball to deal with in general, I thought.
It was a bit, yeah, and it was a bit of lack of communication, and it happens at the top level. It does. It happens at any level, you know. So
I thought Leeds were very shaky at the back.
Initially, I thought it could have been a drubbing. Yeah. Oh my god.
I think they might struggle defensively this season, but going forward, they look really good in the counter attack.
So well drilled. Like that Cock fella, I know his name was dropped quite a few times in the game. He doesn't look like the full shell. And like 6'4", he just looked unsure as anyone on the pitch.
Yeah, again, I have a note saying Cock, shocking. Like, this was very early days, but he was shaky.
Yeah, a baptism of fire for him though, going to Anfield.
Oh, big time. But he's a German international. I thought he would have been a bit better, but time will tell. In terms of the stats, Liverpool had 6 shots on target to 3. And that's what I mean. Leeds had 3 shots on target and they scored 3 goals. And then in terms of an XG for the XG nerds, Liverpool had 1.5, but that's excluding the penalties. So it's really 3.5. Leeds was 0.6. So I think there's been a massive overreaction to Liverpool's performance in this game. I thought it was a closer game than it should have been.
Yeah, and Leeds edged out the possession stat as well, 52-48.
Yeah.
So, like, that's something to consider. It's Bielsa. He's no mug. Like, think of what they'll do with a bit of extra recruitment, because they need a centre half. They need three more players, and they're far more competitive. Like,
I think a fairer reflection of that game probably would have been like 3-1 Liverpool or something like that. Like, it wasn't as bad.
That was my prediction, 3-1.
Yeah, and I probably should have played out that way. Do you have any thoughts on Calvin Phillips? I thought he was absolutely brilliant anchoring the midfield for Leeds.
Looks good. But the only thing I will say is the Calvin Phillips goal, him cutting in from the left and shooting at his right. Liverpool have been done with that a few times recently. I know they got done with that in the Community Shield as well.
Yeah, definitely defenders could have done better there. That was the one goal I could fault them on, definitely. It's just Calvin Phillips' range of passing was unbelievable. He was more of like a defensive midfielder in sort of the Pirlo sort of Carrick role, rather than anyone trying to break up the play. He was like a quarterback just spraying balls over the top of Liverpool's defence.
Yeah, he's a very unsung hero. Like, you know, I think Harrison and the like Klitsch and even Bamford and Rodrigo are going to get a lot of the plaudits because they're finishing the end of these spraying balls, you know, which is fair enough, but it's all about the unsung heroes in the midfield.
Matthias Klick, who scored that goal, he took quite well. I thought he played very, very well. He looks like a very intelligent player. I'd be looking forward to watching him some more. And then for the Van Dijk second goal, that's one I have written down. I thought that was very harsh. I think that easily could have been another goal. Do you think it was a foul?
The build up to the corner, was it, for Van Dijk's goal?
No, I think Curtis Jones was penalised in the box. I think for
pushing.
Oh, yes. I thought that was harsh.
It was harsh, but sure, look, I think Jones knew what he was doing in that instance. You know, it was a bit of the dark arts, as Mourinho would like to say. I think it was fair enough. He did know what he was doing, but at the same time, you need to be stronger maybe in the box is an argument you could make when you're defending your own box. But
I thought it was weak. I didn't think it was a foul at all. So I think Liverpool can count themselves unlucky. But at the end of the day, they did win the game. With a Mohamed Salah hat-trick, which was quite kind for my fantasy football because I captained him. Did you?
Yeah. No, I should have. I was raging with myself that I didn't, honestly.
Yeah. Ronan, do you have Salah in your team?
I don't have a normal team this season.
You don't have a normal team?
There's always one of those.
No, I just couldn't have been bothered.
Wow. Nah, fair enough.
Wow.
Quit while you're ahead, I suppose.
There's always week 2. You can still win.
Yeah.
So then we'll talk briefly about Fulham Arsenal. Obviously, I thought Willian was fantastic. He got 3 assists. Another one from me fantasy.
2 assists officially, 3 in FBL, I think.
Oh, that is actually true. Yeah, but still, he did seem to play well. Any thoughts on Fulham?
Scott Parker, they are just destined to go down.
Yeah.
I can't believe they're in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely got that they lost to Brentford lost to Fulham.
My only thoughts is
you just have a real lack of quality.
That is true. Like the of Kamara, like quick to Maitland-Niles mistakes. The only thing you could point at, and they couldn't even capitalize on that. Leno came out and saved their break. Like it could have been a different game had Arsenal went 1-0 down there. So this is it. But it wasn't. It was a different story at the end of the day.
I know they've got the new goalkeeper coming in, Areola, but the defense just didn't look. It just looked shaky as hell. Especially. They should have shored up defensively. They should have got more centre halves. They could have had Michael Hector in the Premier League, and he's not bad, but I wouldn't be playing Premier League. There's a reason he's gone to Chelsea and been loaned out since he went there.
He moved to Chelsea when he was 24 or something like that. It was a bit of a strange one, but so Gabriel scored in his debut. He looked to have a pretty good performance, but I really don't know how much to read into that Arsenal performance because, as we touched on, I think we all predicted that Fulham would get relegated, and they just look absolutely hopeless.
Yeah, very kind opening two fixtures Arsenal have.
Yeah, I have Fulham had 2 shots, Arsenal had 7, but if you look at the XG, Arsenal had 1.9, Fulham had 0.1, and it's not a surprise. They absolutely offered no threat. Not great in midfield, look shaky in defence, not a good team.
The only thing I will say is I know it's only against Fulham, but I was surprised by just how much better Arsenal look playing football under Arteta to Emery. It's kind of like when Klopp first came into Liverpool. I know they didn't do great when he first came in, but they do look more of a unit. They do seem to be playing better football, better passing football. I was surprised even by Xhaka. And again, I know it was only Fulham, but Xhaka's passing look way better than it has the last few seasons.
Yeah, and Mohamed El Neni starting a game in 2020 for Arsenal. The man, Arteta is visionary. It was such a defensive looking team on paper as well. Tierney is right-sided centre back. But got the job done.
I had no idea El Neni was still playing with them. I thought he got sold to Galatasaray or something like that. Absolutely shocked. But yeah, no, Arsenal definitely are making improvements under Mikel Arteta without a doubt. Another team in North London who are absolutely not making improvements under a recently appointed manager is Tottenham. So we're going to talk about Tottenham Everton. This is a game that I really, really enjoyed. It obviously only ended up being 1-0 Everton. But yeah, Everton completely outplayed them at home. It's not great luck for Tottenham, is it?
Yeah, I only saw the first half, but even in the first half, I know Spurs had 1 or 2 chances, but Everton, when they did get forward, were making the better chances. I know Richarlison had that awful setter that he missed. Probably should have pulled it back in DCL, but they just... I think it's the midfield. There's no creativity in Spurs midfield at the minute.
No, and what little creativity he had in Ali, he brought on Musa for, which is not a like for like, and at that point you don't go for you're everyone at home. They haven't won a game away against top 6 in 7 years. You have to go for more firepower up top, and there's just nothing there on the bench. The Chelsea, where is he? What is it? How much does he cost them? Over 20-30 million? Something like that. Option to buy. Well, they haven't bought him yet, but it's insane.
Yeah.
Or have they? Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised by that because I think it was in January or something, and he wasn't really getting the game, or I don't think he got a single goal last year in the Premier League. And then they signed him permanently. Not really caught me out by surprise.
And then Steven Bergwijn as well. Stevie, will he kick on? It's just, apart from Son and Kane, they're 2 nailed on world-class starters. They do need something else to add to that trio.
They have struggled up front, I think, since Eriksen left. They really missed that creative midfielder in there. And Lechel's doesn't offer that, and they haven't signed anyone to replace Eriksen. Maybe Mourinho thought Lechel's could do that, but they brought in Bergwijn and they brought in Jedson Fernandez. They're both wingers, and they're not... Kane doesn't look anywhere near as threatening without Eriksen on set pieces.
Yeah, no, Spurs' entire tactics at the minute, and I really, really enjoyed this game, almost more than I did the Liverpool game, just because I thought there was some bizarre choices, some really interesting performances. Yeah, you were on about Ali going off for Sissoko. I wouldn't mind that in circumstances, but this is my very first note on this match is Winks Højbjerg pivot. really strange, absolutely zero creativity between them. They're two hard workers. They're okay with the ball, but then you need someone more creative. And then you bring off Ali for Sissoko. Absolutely bizarre. It should come with no surprise.
I love Højbjerg having a clash with someone. Like, he's a proper DM, a bit of a shithouse, and he sees the ref giving the negative reaction, and then he just screams out as if he's in pain, theatrics. Like, it's horrible to watch when you see that. But I was impressed by Doherty's role this game, though. Like, he could have scored and changed the game. I was expecting him to be a lot more negative first game. Like, he was really pushing up like Aurier last season, nearly a right winger job.
I know the commentator kind of pointed out on Sky Sports when I was watching it. The only thing with Doherty is he was still kind of playing like he was playing in the back five as a wing back when he was playing at back four as a full back. But he left a lot of space out on the right. I know, especially when Richarlison got that chance in the first half. I think Spurs got caught out there particularly because he was so far up the pitch. He's not really doing his defense. He didn't really do his defensive duties as much.
You think, though, with the winks and the midfield pivot dynamic to have, I think there should be enough to reinforce the back line when someone like Doherty bombs up like at home, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and especially with Doherty, being so high up the field, I wouldn't mind that if you had a really quick centre-back on that right-hand side of the fence. But you have Toby Alderweireld, who is he's absolutely finished. United were very strongly linked a couple of years ago, and I wanted him at the time. I think he was 27 or something. I'm so glad that we did not sign him now because he looks a shadow from for himself.
And of course, he had Jan beside him, and they had a telepathic relationship, and obviously both of them are aging significantly. I think he's going on 31 and Jan's going on 34, so had to be broken up at some stage. It looks like the end is now for both of them.
Were you impressed by the Everton new boys? You had Alan in the midfield, James, Doucouré beside Alan.
I think Doucouré is a good signing. I always thought he was a bit too good for Watford. I was surprised he didn't get a move to a bigger club more recently, and not that Everton are that big of a club. Step up from Watford. I think he's better than Everton, but...
Yeah, I thought Alan beside him was brilliant. I thought he absolutely controlled that midfield. He's a bit of everything. He's a tough tackler, but he can control the midfield in terms of passing as well. He dictates the play. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think he could have that initial Torreira under Emery impact at Everton, just all the spotlights on him. He looks like the fix of all their midfield problems. And I think James coming in was brilliant because it sheltered Alan and Doucouré and allowed them to just have the pressure off them, and they could just work away by themselves and just do what they do best, And I don't think James covered himself in glory. He looked tidy, but you can't read too much into that.
Yeah, I thought there was a bit of an overreaction to his display because it's clear he's a brilliant technical footballer. I don't think he affected the game as much as he could have. He's just so nice watching the ball. And he did nearly score a goal. He had an in-swinging shot just go past the post. So I definitely thought it was a good performance by him. But there's definitely more to come. So then, Matt Doherty, we touched him briefly, but he had a brilliant chance. I didn't think it was the best debut from him. He looked a little bit unsure of what he was doing at times, but that's to be expected because he only signed, was it 10 days ago? And then he was training with Ireland. So there was very little,
There's no turnaround, and you're looking at a Mourinho team that's searching for an identity at the minute that needs a left back. Davies obviously has come out criticising the manager today, I believe, Jose, about the lack of fitness and yada yada from the players back and forth, but it's a bit unfair. You can see Jose already lumping blame on the players' first game of the season. So this does not bode well for him in the long term. And he could be probably he's odds on out of the top managers to get sacked this season.
One thing we actually haven't talked about from this game was the one goal, believe it or not, but absolutely brilliant goal. Unbelievable cross from Digne from the free kick and unbelievable header from Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Absolutely terroring header right into the top corner. I love DCL as a player. I think he has it all. He's good at shooting. Obviously, he's clearly good at heading. He's good hold-up play. He'll run the channels for you. I absolutely love Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Yeah,
the only questionable thing about DCL is he's given up the fade for a cheeky man bun, but everything else is on his technical ability. You can't fault him. And of course, Digne is the only Everton defender that I think you can't label any blame on. Those deliveries from set pieces. He was chalk and cheese with Son on set pieces. I know Gary Neville was at his wit's end with him. It was brutal to watch, and he is a quality player, obviously. But Digne, fantastic as well.
And then you're looking at the possession stats and other relevant stats was actually quite surprising. 52% to Tottenham, obviously 48 to Everton. Tottenham actually had one more shot on target. It must have been from long shots or something like that, because I watched the entire game and I don't remember being like, oh, Tottenham on top here. It just wasn't the case. And then Everton had a slightly better XG. But the stats, I don't think they really tell the truth in terms of the eye test. I suppose they quite literally tell the truth, but it really seemed like a comfortable win for Everton. The stats were a little bit surprising, I thought. Okay, so moving on to the last game we're going to preview, Brighton against Chelsea. Obviously, it ended up 3-1 Chelsea, as I'm sure you know if you're listening to this podcast. You like your football, I'm sure. But the standout performer for me was Tariq Lamptey for Brighton. I thought he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing myself. Defensively, he looked solid enough. I know they conceded 3 goals, but he looked like he knew what he was doing back there. And then even going forward, he looked like Brighton's most creative player. I know we set up the goal for Trossard, which I know was just a pass out into the midfield. But he put in a few crosses that looked dangerous. I think he put in the cross for Duffy as well when he missed, which was a sitter that he should have scored 2-1 down. But he looks good enough to be in the Premier League. What
was he? Was he 3 million or something? Ludicrous.
3 million, yeah, from Chelsea.
Yeah. Fabulous boy.
I remember watching him against Leicester. I think it was the second game after the restart, and he was absolutely brilliant that day. Then I seen him again, and he was really good. And I was like, this guy's good. So I was in on that train very early. So just saying, follow me and you will learn the game. I thought he's absolutely brilliant. Ben White made his debut back there. I have no real comments on him.
He only I think he didn't miss a minute when he started for Leeds last season, and he was taken off in the 78th minute, which was no fault of his own. Was he at fault for was it him or Webster that it came off for Zuma's goal?
Webster, I think.
Webster, yeah. That was very, very unfortunate. But I didn't think he covered himself in glory, didn't do anything wrong. I think fine debut and a brilliant backline that Brighton have. My only worry for them is going forward. I don't think they have the firepower. I think Mupai could be a massive flop this season,
yeah, he's got something about him, but if you're reliant on him for goals to stay up, I'd be a little bit worried.
Yeah, you're relying on Aaron Connolly to come good, which there's going to be no guarantee of.
Yeah, I just think Connolly was brilliant when he came on.
He made a bit of an impact at the start just because he's so quick, but not a great performance. Notice the bleach blonde hair is gone. He's gone back to a slightly more normal haircut as well.
We'll say up until the Chelsea second goal, Brighton were the better team in the game. Once Chelsea got ahead 2-1, they were the better team. But Brighton really took the game to Chelsea for the first 55 minutes or so. I thought Kepa again was just awful for the Trossard goal.
Yeah, I'd argue that Brighton were the better team overall. I don't have the stats here. Sorry, I've come ill prepared for this game, but I think they were definitely the better team. Chelsea looked not great, like 3-1. I was actually listening on the radio coming out. It's like Chelsea won 3-1 last night, but it's not quite as... It was a bit flattering to them, and 100% agreement. I thought they were quite good. So the penalty incident, Timo Werner latched on to a pass after a mistake in the Brighton midfield. Matt Ryan just took him out. Absolutely no debate. It's a penalty, but I just thought Matt Ryan had a bit of a nightmare today. I have to say, he was a bit unsure in some situations, but he's quite a good player. But I have to say, like, Werner was putting himself about, and I was so annoyed by that Chelsea midfield. Just the passes being put into him. He just needs better quality. He needs people to be on form. Like they need Ziyech back. They need these ballers in the team because there's too many, for the want of a better word, bums in that Chelsea squad. Like Alonso, you need Silva back. You need all that defence firing, because I wasn't convinced by that lineup he put out last night at all.
Loftus-Cheek is a posh boy's Lingard. He's the exact same. Like, they're similar age, and they've both done nothing. Like,
yeah, literally, my mind blanked there. Loftus-Cheek was who was reaching for there. Like, his pass came exactly to mind. There was another chance for Werner. He just slided in. A few yards, play it through easy. The pace he puts on, he just completely wrong. It's just, he was frustrating to watch, I have to say.
Even Jorginho. I quite liked Jorginho, but he was basically surplus to requirements at the end of last season. And then he started the first game of this season. A little bit strange. I think he's quite good. Obviously scored the penalty.
Like, they'd be mental to keep him and get rid of Kante. I know Gary Neville was talking before the game saying that Jorginho was instrumental to how they play as well. I wouldn't quite agree. I'd much rather keep Kante. But I think he's to be fair, the one thing about him, he's got 21 career penalties and at the top level, and he scored all 21. So
yeah, no, he doesn't miss with the wee hop and a skip, just like Bruno does. But,
He doesn't miss, but they're horrible to watch, those penalties. I hate them.
I like them. I like the way you're rolling in. I think they're good.
Yeah, but the record backs him up,
preference.
so I think you're safe enough watching them.
I prefer the Salah, no technique, just hit it. Same with Jamie Vardy.
Troy Deeney absolutely smashed it down the middle. Brilliant. One debut which I thought was quite bad. You can't obviously read into it too much just from one performance, but I thought Kai Havertz was really poor. He played in the right-hand side, so he was out of position, but
He's not really a winger, is he?
he offered nothing. In the first match, he could be brilliant.
Yeah, he was doing the classic Sanchez from a few years ago at Swansea, passing to the scoreboard like he was. He had a nightmare, God love him, like this. But sure, look, he's a proper baller out of those three big attackers they brought in. He's the one tipped to gel to the Premier League straight away, and it would be hilarious if he was the one that flopped this season.
He looks malnourished.
He does, doesn't he?
He's way too skinny. He's absolutely way too skinny. Scary to look at.
Honestly,
one thing I'd say about Werner, obviously he won the penalty, but it was one of them ones where you knew it was going to be a penalty 3 seconds before anything happened. You just knew Matt Ryan had to come out, and he was never getting that ball. But I wasn't very impressed with Werner either. It's just he goes with a sort of head down approach, and he takes ages to load up a shot. I don't know if that's a weird complaint to make about him, but I'm not convinced.
He keeps drifting into the left channel like all the time. Like sometimes you won't even find him as an out-and-out striker. He's looking to slide in someone there that'll make the diagonal run through the middle, and it's weird to watch him keep going out to the left. That's just what he does, and they knew that when he bought him. And he got 28 goals last season in the Bundesliga, so I'm sure it'll come off.
I think that's why he would have suited Liverpool. Like Firmino kind of does that as well. Like he doesn't play straight through the middle. He kind of comes out wide and tries to get across into the box, while the other two, Salah and Mane, get into the box as well. I don't know if that suits Chelsea's style. They kind of suit more of an out-and-out striker who just kind of stays down the middle and is always kind of in there to get on the end of chances.
Yeah, they did reasonably well last year with Tammy Abraham and Giroud, and that's exactly the type of striker you're on about there.
Yeah, that's like Tammy gave them like very clutch goals. Like he won't be able to replicate that probably because he needed a lot of game time, and it was an experimental season, and that. I have to say that season they got off so easy in the press just because the English boys they were playing, and like they've gone back to their old selves now. Just a load of foreign players, splash the cash. There's going to be no sign of English lads in that team other than Chilwell.
Frank Lampard actually said, I couldn't believe this was a real quote. He actually said, "We don't want to become an academy club." It was something along those lines. It's like, what? Every club should aspire to be that. Look, if you say you can have success with no academy players, or you can be absolutely terrible with academy players, you know which one I'm going to pick, but you should at least try.
Yeah, and this is the academy club. This is a club that stockpiles talent from London and elsewhere and just potentially hampers the growth of players and starves the market young players and just looks to cut them and sell them on at higher fee later on. Like they have the academy business destroyed in England, a lot of people would argue. So you think that you're going to get more return from that, you know? So
like when I said Werner, he takes ages to load up a shot. What I kind of meant by that is when he's set through on goal and has half a chance, I never really have faith in him scoring because I always think the defender's going to catch up with him. He kind of looks down. He's not really looking at where the keeper is. But look, he could end up scoring 30 goals this season. What do I know? But
yeah, absolutely. And he came out like yesterday and said that he was surprised by the physicality of the Brighton defenders. And fair enough, Brighton, of the lower teams, apart from like Burnley with Tarkowski and that, like they are the peak, they are the pinnacle of like defense you're going to come up against in that end of the table. So maybe he'll have better luck against weaker defense, you know, down the road. But I don't know.
I haven't said that. Like I think Brighton are quite an easy team to play through because they play some nice football. If you come up against a Burnley, like James Tarkowski, Ben Mee and the boys, they're going to absolutely batter him.
They're going to eat you up. Yeah, exactly. Like so, but he can't be. Like sort of, he had to see the physicality of the Premier League before he came there. He's not naive. He's just playing it off his bad performance or whatever.
Yeah, so all around, a very good opening round of fixtures, I thought. It's good to have it back. If we're looking at any transfer activity that's happened, it's actually been a little bit quiet in terms of done deals. Batshuayi went on loan to Palace. I think that's definitely a good signing. He's certainly better than Christian Benteke. He went there before. I think he did quite well. And I think he did
quite well, yeah.
I think he'll add another element to their attack.
A needed element as well if Zaha's not going to push on this season. You know, they do They need something like, Townsend, Zaha. They could be in trouble potentially.
Oh,
Like
they'll
that was very
definitely be down there.
flattering. Yeah, that was a very flattering scoreline. Like 27% possession the last game. Southampton had serious chances, quite Giata bailing them out. Like, it's, I don't know, not sure about Palace.
Yeah, Areola, he's went on loan to Fulham, the former PSG goalkeeper, so could be good. Still don't think they'll stay up. A huge one, actually, was Ollie Watkins to Aston Villa for 28 million, rising to 33. Crazy fee for a club that, is going to be down there. But do you think his goals are going to be enough to keep him up?
If he stays fish. They've signed 3 strikers now in the last 12 months, and none of them have stayed fish.
Yeah, and reports linking them to Brewster as well to bolster that attack. Like, where are they going to fit in all these strikers?
I think I saw something today that Sheffield are closing in on the loan deal for Brewster.
That would be massive, I have to say.
Ollie Watkins, I actually think he's a very good sign and very expensive, mind you. 28 million, rising to 33. But if he does fulfill those, performance and related add-ons, then they won't be complaining because they'll be staying up.
No, they won't, because the end game for Villa is stay in the Premier League, which is a shame for a club the size of Villa, but at the end of the day, they were quite poor last year and their spending was poor as well. So they need to... But Watkins isn't guaranteed to stick. Like, look at Shea Adams last season, 25 goals in the Championship, and he's only coming good now, and Villa do not have a season. They do not have a season to just hope he comes good the season after.
I think Watkins does really suit them, though, because he's a really physical striker. He scored loads of headers for Brentford last season, and on his debut, albeit in a friendly game, he did actually score a header against United. So I think he's very good sign for them. I'm looking forward to watching.
You'd just be worried about Villa defensively, trying to stay up. I know Mings is decent, but their keepers aren't great. Like Pepe Reina's past it now.
I think he's gone back to Lazio, or he's gone to Lazio, hasn't he?
Has he?
I know the Villa are signing Emiliano Martinez from Arsenal. That's basically a done deal.
Yeah, still not great.
Yeah.
I thought they'd go for someone better than that.
They were linked to Romero.
I would have been all right. Again, still not brilliant though.
No, but it's Villa at the end of the day. Yeah. Like, we have to caveat it with that. They're not the club they used to be, and if Martinez, Romero, like, that's probably the level they can get, especially in this market. Like, it's hard to go shopping further afield at the minute. But
yeah, defensively they look poor. I think going forward, Grealish is proving that he's good enough for the Premier League. I think John McGinn's good as a box-to-box midfielder. It's just whether Ollie Watkins can score from the season. They struggled last year, but Wesley didn't really score much when he was playing. Samata didn't do much when he came into the side. So
yeah, exactly. Like, it was all going to Grealish last year, and if Ollie Watkins can stick, it's going to take the pressure off Grealish. Everyone's not going to be looking to Grealish as the only outlet for the attack. So it can only be a positive thing if Ollie Watkins stays fit and bags them goals,
So obviously we briefly touched upon Doucouré going into Everton, so I don't think we need to discuss that. And Edouard Mendy looks set to go to Chelsea. That's basically a done deal. I have absolutely no clue about him, but he's a goalkeeper that isn't named Kepa Arrizabalaga, so that's an improvement, has to be. Right?
The only way is up, yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And then Reguilon's been linked to United, but far from a done deal. Is there any update on Thiago?
At this stage, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. FSG are playing hard money ball.
I seen Romano said that Liverpool want to kind of wait till the last week of the window, so in the hope that Bayern just hope a cheaper offer. Yeah,
and Bayern's president coming out, like, literally what you're touching on there, saying, "Oh, Liverpool's business, the way they do business is just disgusts me." A man that was convicted of tax evasion for like over 3.5 years, and they're bagging Sané doing exactly the same thing, like, or not exactly the same thing. Yeah, running the contract down and getting them at a cheaper price. That's Bayern all over, like.
Yeah, so it doesn't. Well, we'll see where he goes up. I don't think there's really any update from United side of things. I think we've been in touch with agents, but whether we'd be willing to pay that fee either, I'm not sure. And if both Liverpool and United get a bit accepted, he's probably going to go to Liverpool. You couldn't really blame him at the minute.
Let's be honest,
in the twilight of his career, like, Liverpool are good now, so I don't know if he can really risk going to United at 29, 30, because, he'll definitely have success if he goes to Liverpool, do you know what I mean? So then going into the predictions. So last week, James predicted 4-0 to Arsenal. Very close, but only 1 point. He predicted 1-0 to Liverpool. Not that close, but same margin of victory. So that's 2 points. He predicted that Spurs would beat Everton 3-2, so no points there. he predicted that Chelsea would beat Brighton 2-1. Close, but just another point. And he said Wolves would beat Sheffield United 5-2, and it was 2-0. So he gets 4 points.
I thought that last one was on. I'm sorry. Once they bagged those two, I thought that game was on. That was going to be it.
Yeah. In terms of my predictions, I said 1-0 Arsenal, so 1 point. I said 1-1 with Liverpool Leeds, no points there. I said Spurs would beat Everton, so no. I said Brighton would beat Chelsea, no. And I said Blades Wolves would be a draw, so only 1 point for me. Mixer said that Arsenal would beat Fulham 2-0, so 1 point. He said Liverpool would beat Leeds 3-1, so just 1 point there. Said Spurs Everton draw, so 0 points. He said Chelsea would beat Brighton 3-0, so close enough there, 1 point. And he said Wolves would beat Blades 1-0, so fairly close. He's on 4 points. I'm on 1. And then Ronan, just looking at yours, you said 2-0 Arsenal, so 1 point. 3-1 Liverpool, 2 points. Draw with Spurs and Everton, no points there. Sheffield United to beat Wolves, so no points there. And Chelsea to beat Brighton 5-1. So you're on 3 points. I'm on 1, and the other 2 lads are on 4. So the struggling, going to get relegated at this rate. So the games we're predicting this week going to be Leeds and Fulham. I'm going to go with 1-0 to Leeds because I thought they definitely played well against Liverpool, but it's a completely different game playing Fulham. They're going to go into this game as favourites. They might feel some pressure, but ultimately I do think they're good enough. And as we've touched upon many times, Fulham are absolutely hopeless. So I'm going to go with 1-0 to Fulham.
Well, there I am going to go 3-0 Leeds comprehensively to put all the good work they're going to do during the week and Liverpool to rest. And just put Fulham to bed. Just back to the Championship you go. Thanks for the entertainment.
I'm going to say 2-0 Leeds. I think Fulham are going to kind of, away from home, they're going to set up defensively anyway. I think Leeds are going to dominate. I'm going to have a lot of chances, but I don't think they're going to score much, so 2-0.
So the next game on the previewing is United's first game of the season at home to Palace. I think the likes of our creative players are going to be absolutely crucial here because we're going to be playing against a very low block, a very stubborn defensive team in Palace. So the likes of Bruno, Rashford can be quite a good playmaker at times. His passings come on tenfold. Pogba, obviously, as a sort of deep lying midfielder. So they're going to be absolutely crucial. If they're not at it, I'd be a little bit worried. We've had basically no pre-season. So I think I'm going to have to predict United to beat Palace 1-0, but I think it'll be close.
Well, I am going for a 6-0 United blowout because I watched the Palace game and I would love them to maybe slide in them or West Ham ahead of Villa in the relegation zone because they're a miserable team. Roy Hodgson's a miserable man. And United did just run riot.
Roy Hodgson's a good manager, I think.
Oh,
he's a nice fella as well.
Miserable git, right? And they're going to run riot like they did like they did against Bournemouth last year.
Right. Any thoughts on that game, Ronan?
I'm saying 4-1 United. I think they're just too good going forward for Palace's defence. I think Palace might nick 1 or 2, but other than that, 4-1 United.
Yeah, so maybe it's me trying to be a little bit nervous ahead of the season opener for United, but I don't think we're going to be at it. I hope we are, but yeah, 1-0 still. So next game, I can't imagine there's going to be any upsets here. It's Arsenal at home to West Ham. I actually didn't watch West Ham at home to Newcastle, but by all accounts, it was a pretty miserable performance. That's what I've heard anyway. Arsenal looked good against Fulham. Hard to know how much to read into it, but yeah, it's at home to West Ham. You'd be shocked if they didn't win. Going to go with 2-0.
I'm going to go with 2-1 there, similar points, but I just think Moyes is going to demand an uptake from Rice and Souček and the boys because they were quite unlucky. Hit the post a few times, but ultimately you have to go for an Arsenal win. I'm
also going for 2-0 Arsenal. Just be consistent.
Jeez, don't give too much away about that match, Ron.
Arsenal look much better going forward this year than they did last year. I don't know.
Yeah,
West Ham don't really offer much going forward. I mean, Felipe Anderson's done nothing all air. It's not great.
It's basically they were struggling last season under David Moyes. They've kept David Moyes. They haven't signed anyone, and they've sold Grady Diangana. So it's it's never really going to
Yeah,
be a good combo. So
they're looking for a takeover bid there. West Ham potentially £350 million American consortium coming in potentially. So that's one to look at for the next few days. But other than that, it's not looking good.
It's hard to know how much to read into them takeovers. I feel like they're always rumoured, but we'll see.
Honestly, yeah.
Liverpool have had a load of rumoured ones recently, like the last few years.
Same with United. Yeah, absolutely. So next match, brilliant game. Again, Liverpool find themselves in the sort of headline match of the weekend because they travel to Chelsea. Absolutely fascinating game. Two great teams with great players who play great football. So it's probably going to be 0-0. But no, I'm going to predict 2-1 to Liverpool because Chelsea really weren't at it against Brighton. They won 3-1, but they were quite lucky. Liverpool, not perfect against Leeds either, but just good enough to suggest that they're going to be able to beat Chelsea.
I've gone for 1-1 Liverpool. I've gone a bit conservative because I think Thiago's going to come into the side with the match fitness. Aspi maybe as a centre back, we'll see, and just shore them up a little bit. And it's at the Bridge, so I just think they'll have enough to get a point out of Liverpool.
I'm going to say 2-1 Chelsea. I never really fancied Liverpool away to Chelsea. I know we won there last year, but even under Klopp, we haven't been brilliant going away to Chelsea. Lost there last year in the Cup, and we probably had a stronger side out than Chelsea. I don't know what the real reason for saying it's going to be 2-1. I just don't really fancy Liverpool playing away to Chelsea.
Yeah, so you stick your neck out in the line. I can respect that. So then the final match we're going to predict is another very good game, actually. Wolves are at home to City. It's City's first game of the season, much like United. They were given a week off because of European exploits. Well, wasn't much exploits to lost in the quarterfinal. But yeah, it's kind of the same sort of thinking as with my prediction with United, in the sense that I think they're going to be a little bit rusty. It would be unrealistic to expect them not to be. And it's not an ideal match. Rusty, first game of the season, maybe one or two players like Ake coming in, and you're away at Wolves, at Molineux. It's really tough game, tough ground to go to. Wolves have a pretty good team. So I'm going to go with a narrow win to Wolves. I'm going to say 2-1.
Very good. Yeah, I've gone for a 2-2, similar points to yourself. You look back to 3-2 last season, which was insane. And the season before that, when Wolves were nearly promoted, it was 1-1 and it was the end of the world. But then people found out how good Wolves are against the top six. They have a plethora of options coming through, like Jota, Podence, like all these boys contest in that, like number 10 in around that position, the wings. So many options. So yeah, Wolves are getting something here, definitely 2-2.
I'm going for 3-0 City. I think Pep's going to get the hair transplant on and just going to have the men playing well. No, I just think City are good at football. I don't know if that's controversial or not.
Yes, it's a bold claim.
I think they're just going to win 3-0. I don't think Wolves are that good.
Actually,
they bottled top six last year. They really should be in Europa League. Like the squad they have, they should be doing better than they did last year, I think. I know they had Europa League on
Leicester. But Ronan, we didn't get your prediction for a title. Do you think the title's going to City? Because two of the boys have said the title's going to City this year.
Yes. I don't think Liverpool have signed enough. If we don't get Thiago, I don't think our midfield is strong enough, and we need another backup centre half. Because getting rid of Lovren, I know Lovren was a war criminal, but he's not. He still needs two backup centre halves, and at the moment we've got, by the looks of it, it's going to be starting with Van Dijk and Gomez, and Matip's going to be the backup centre half. And then other than that, all we've got is Kometio, Van den Berg, and Keanu Hoover, who Kometio and Keanu Hoover look decent for their age, but they're not good enough to be in Premier League Champions squad.
They don't fill you with any confidence if they're going to be dropped in if there's an injury to Van Dijk, and it's going to be Joe Gomez to marshal that defence.
I mean, Hoover's played a few games for Liverpool, and he actually does look decent, but again, if both Gomez and Matip got injured, I can't imagine him going up against the likes of Martial and Rashford. I can't. He'd struggle big time, even playing with Van Dijk, and even with, I'd assume he'd be on the same side as Trent. I just don't think Liverpool have the squad depth there at the minute. I know we brought in a new left back, but it's just City have signed players in positions they needed. I think Ferran Torres is a good signing as backup. Their squad is still stronger than ours. I think Aguero's not going to be as good this year as he was last year. I don't think Jesus is brilliant, but any goals that they drop off, I think Sterling's going to make up for it, definitely.
Yeah,
And they
Sterling's
got,
due a big season, and
and
like you said, the squad's unbelievable to have.
and they got the creativity in midfield like Mahrez and De Bruyne. So I think it's going to be very close. I don't think City are going to run away with it by 10 or 15 points or anything, but I do think they just have the squad depth this season.
Everyone's predicting a low points total this year. Has to be said. Everyone's predicting a mid 80s.
It has to be lower.
Yeah,
that's what it
does
is.
have to be.
Yeah,
because that would be indicative of a more quality league.
And that's the interesting thing about this season, because last year the deadline, and the last couple of years, the deadline was the day before the season started. But there's still so long in the transfer window. There's 2 or 3 weeks, so teams could look completely different just with 1 or 2 additions. But we'll just have to see. City are linked with Koulibaly, Liverpool are linked with Thiago, United with Sancho, etc. So it's really hard to know. I think Chelsea, they're bringing in a keeper. I'd be surprised if they do any other business, but they look pretty much done. But my top 6 prediction, it could be completely different in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. Honestly, that's the annoying. Everyone wants a prediction out of us, obviously, because we're talking about the league. But you have to wait until that window closes, especially in this climate. But like, I think FSG would have blood on their hands if Liverpool don't win the title and they don't bring in anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the one thing. It's like, right, if you bring in 1 or 2 faces and you don't win it, fair enough. But it's always that what if.
It just means over the last 3 transfer windows, Liverpool have spent less than 20 million if we don't bring in Thiago, which, I mean, obviously it worked out that we ended up winning the Premier League last year, but we got knocked out of the Champions League in the last 16, and we got knocked out in the FA Cup when we probably should have gone through. I just, especially the Champions League, I think squad depth killed us last year because for how well we played. I know we won the World Cup and we won the Super Cup, but like people, I know they are major trophies, but they don't really care. Nobody cares about. I know it was the first time. It was the first time we won the World Cup, so we kind of cared about it then. And it's nice to get the photos, obviously, but you still, for how well we played, 99 points in the season.
Yeah, we're just very unfortunate to get the Alisson injury though at a crucial time this season. Like, but Adrian did deputise quite well, but like that Champions League, you need that strong keeper, and that killed us.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a fascinating season. We're going to be here every step of the way, and in terms of the transfer window, we'll have more updates next week and the following week, and right until the window closed. So, Ronan, your first week on the podcast, you enjoy it?
Yeah, I'm not adding anything to that. I just did, yeah.
Yeah, enjoy it. Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, so we've predicted all the games. Now, all we have to do is watch them this weekend. So, hopefully, they'll live up to the first round of games. And from my point of view, hopefully United win. But either way, we'll be here next week to talk about it. So thanks for tuning in, and tune in next week.